Welcome, everyone, to Strike Zone with George Tsamis. Strike Zone is a weekly program that gives fans the opportunity to ask the St. Paul Saints skipper questions about the Saints, the American Association, baseball, and sports in general. Or if you have questions about life, maybe George would be willing to share some pearls of wisdom he's accumulated over the years. My name is Rob Pannier, and I'm the managing editor of the Minor League Sports Report. With me is St. Paul Saints manager George Tsamis, who joins us over the phone from Laredo, Texas, where the team will be playing a doubleheader tonight. For future, if you would like to submit a question for George to answer, simply email us at askgeorge@minorleaguesportsreport.com. That's askgeorge@minorleaguesportsreport.com. Please have your questions submitted by Friday at noon so that we can hand them to the St. Paul Saints skipper Friday evening. We like to give George a couple of days to review questions before we record the show on Sunday. So we want to thank you, George, for joining us, and let's get into this week's program.
So I first want to begin by asking you about, you guys have scored 64 runs through your first 8 games. Did you envision that your team's offense was going to wind up being this good, especially this early on when usually it's kind of pitching dominates hitting early on?
Yeah, it's we're off to a good start. It's pleasantly surprised, and we've been swinging the bats doing real well. And the thing is too, we've gotten some big 2-out hits, and to me, that's what it's about: getting those big 2-out hits with guys on base.
A lot of the new guys that you brought onto the team this year have really been stepping up for you. Is there somebody whose performance, other than obviously Ian Gack, really stands out, but is there somebody whose other performance you're looking at and you're going, wow, they're really delivering beyond expectation?
We've got a few guys that have got off to good starts. Mark Kwasnicka he's been hitting fifth behind Gack, and I think it's important to have a quality hitter behind Gack, and he's off to a good start. After 8 games, he's hitting 400 and gotten some timely hits, and Sonko has already driven in 12 runs in the 7 games that he's played. So, it's nice to have those guys in the middle of the order protecting him. And and the thing is, too, I think at the top of the order, too, the 2 guys at the top of the order, they're really not off to great starts, and and we've been fortunate enough to score some runs. So hopefully we can get those 2 guys going and just continue to score some more runs and have these guys drive these guys in.
Well, even at the top of the order isn't meeting up to your expectation, but the bottom of the order seems to be really coming through for you. Would you agree about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. DeFazio's been doing well hitting down there, and Anthony Phillips, he's had some couple big hits and driven in a few runs at key spots, and that's what good teams do. You have different guys doing it every night, and like I said, I know we're only a week into the season, and it's a long way to go, but it is a nice start, and the guys are playing well.
Your pitching staff is also having quite a good start to the season here. Is there somebody whose performance is really standing out for you?
Dustin Crenshaw, who we acquired in the trade, at the end of the season, he's off to a good start. And he's had 2 quality starts, and he's 2-0, and Jeff Shields has pitched well. And Kramer Sneed has pitched well on his 2 starts as well. So, it's so important to have a quality guy go out there every time, and when you have a quality starter out there, I think it's important. It gives you a chance to win, and going out there, you have a chance to win.
Now, I wanted to ask you about last week Sunday. You release Michael Antonio earlier in the day, and he signs with Fargo and is playing against you that afternoon. Is that kind of one of the craziest transaction series you've seen in your managing time?
Yeah, that doesn't happen very often. I think Antonio, I think he'll be a good hitter. I just think there's just a question mark. I question him defensively at third base, and and if we had a DH spot open, then I think we would have kept him, because I do think he'll be a quality hitter. But we have Gack and Sonko over there, rotating at first base at DH, and we just couldn't keep him. And again, the defense, is a question mark for him over there at third base. And but it's weird how it went down. We released him at noon, and he's in their uniform later on. It happens once in a while, and that's just the way it goes.
I'm kind of curious with the fast starts of some of your guys. Is it you're excited obviously about the start, but is there also kind of something in the back of your mind that says, okay, somebody's going to come looking for these guys to join their organization at the same time?
You can't worry about that. It happens. If it happens, it happens. Some guys, that's what they're playing. They're playing to get signed by major league organizations, and if it happens, it's great for them, and that's why they're playing. But you can't worry about if a guy's doing too good and if somebody's going to come and get them.
So you began this 9-game string through Texas. What were some things that you were looking for as expectations, and what have you seen so far in Amarillo and Laredo?
Pretty much, Amarillo is a good team, and those guys, they play the bats well, and they're aggressive on the bases, and they play hard, and they had a couple of decent starters too, and their bullpen I thought was decent. That was a tough series. That last game was a wild game and back and forth, and we were fortunate to pull it out. And obviously Laredo, we've only played them the one time, and this is a game that we just swung the bats well early in the game. We jumped out to a big lead, and then just held on. But you can tell Laredo's lineup's pretty good too, and there's just good teams all over the league. And again, we're 9 days in, and it's a long season, and we just hope to keep playing well.
Does having a doubleheader like this, where you get rained out and then you're forced to do the 2 games, does that have any effect on the way that your pitching staff kind of comes together, or in the way that you keep the momentum going?
I don't think anybody's too crazy about playing doubleheaders, but it happens, but it wasn't nice to have a day off. That rain out, maybe it wasn't such a bad thing. It gave guys a day, and it has been a tough trip. This is a tough long trip. This trip through Texas here, and we do have an off day coming up when we get back off this trip on Thursday. So it's really not a big deal, about the doubleheader, but when you're playing every day and you never have off days, it's tough for those doubleheaders, with the pitching, and so it's a matter of this time through. I think it was a welcomed thing out. And
heading into Grand Prairie, are there some things that you see about their team that you're especially conscious of when you're about to play them?
Yeah, obviously we haven't seen them. We only played them a few times, and I'm sure they're good too. I mean, they wouldn't beat Wichita the other day, and and I know that they had some tough games with Winnipeg, and so I'm sure they're a quality team as well. And it doesn't matter who you play in this league. You better play your best, because if you don't, they're going to beat you. And it's a long season. Like I said, everybody goes through rough stretches, and the Grand Prairie's team, I'm sure they're a solid team, and we need to play our best to beat them.
Now, I want to ask you, you're in kind of a rare circumstance this year where you get a new ballpark, and that's obviously not an everyday occurrence for most teams out there. So, as the manager, what do you try to do to prepare a team with all of these events and fanfare and everything that's kind of going around the organization as the season is coming to begin?
You mean at home, you mean?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, it's obviously, I mean, you saw the stadium, you saw how beautiful it is, and when you're recruiting these players, when you get there, you try to tell them how nice it's going to be. But, again, I had not, this is our first team in the stadium, so I think every manager tries to get players, they try to sell them on their place, and I think it's even better once people come through and actually see how nice it is. And but that first homestand, it was pretty impressive with the fans, having 8,500, 8,000, whatever it was the first 2 games, and even the last game with the rain, it was still, I believe there was over 4,500 there. So it's a great place to play, and the stuff, between innings, I think it's great. It goes on, and it's our job just to worry about what happens during the game.
The dimensions of the stadium were a bit different than Midway. So does that mean you change kind of the tactic of who you try to recruit based upon new dimensions, or you're just looking for the best guys regardless?
No, you're always looking for the best guys, but it would be nice to have, another left-handed hitter. And we did have a few left-handed hitters earlier this offseason, but a couple things happened. One got signed, one got to Japan, so we did kind of lose a couple left-handed bats. But it's okay, though, because, again, we're off to a good start. The guys we have out there are doing a good job. But I do think that park is going to be a left-handed hitter's park, and we're always looking to upgrade the team, and it's no secret that we are looking for another left-handed bat. And but we'll just see how it plays out and take it day to day. And I'm sure somebody will come along that's left-handed. We just don't know when that will happen.
Now, I wanted to ask because I'm sure that there are some people out there who aren't really independent baseball is a little new to them. So I think that they'd be interested in hearing a little bit about the recruiting process that you go through to try to bring players in. So could you kind of describe the things that you do in looking for players and how you try to bring a guy into your organization?
Yeah, that's half the fun of the job is going out and getting the players. And it's no different than like colleges recruiting players to come to their school. There's so many teams out there. We're all going up against each other. We're trying to get the best players, and there are a lot of nice places around, a lot of nice stadiums in our league, Atlantic League as well, and there are so many teams. So it's our job to sell the place on the players we're trying to get, and you win some, you lose some, and it's tough at times. It's tough at times, but I think down the road, especially once the guys have been through our stadium and seen it, I think a lot of players will want to end up coming to play in St. Paul.
How do you even decide who you want to even look at? I wouldn't even know really where you could go to start getting an idea of where players are available to you.
It's you follow the releases. All the teams in our league. When the releases come through from major league organizations, they send them to our league, and then the league sends them out to all the teams. So everybody sees the releases, but the other league sees the releases, and again, you go after the best players or something you really have a need for, but a lot of the players you sign, you don't see them play. You haven't seen them play. You're just going on you're looking at their stats, you're looking at what they've done in the past. You try to get as many reports as you can from organizations on them, but sometimes you don't get them. It just works out that way, and but again, you just try to get the best possible guys you can, and you hope they work out for you.
Now, I know in building your team for the off season, this past off season, that you talked about wanting to add more speed to the club. And I'm curious now that you've seen the dimensions and how well the ball carries out at the new CHS field, does that change your strategy a little bit in wanting a more power-oriented team and less speed?
No, not really, because I think it's in center field at our place. It's pretty big out there, and I think it's important to have some speed out in the outfield and have some quality outfielders to run down those balls. And I think in the last few years, I don't want to say we've gotten old, but maybe we focus a little more on having more athletic players that can run and not only steal bases, but be able to run down those balls in the outfield. And again, I think the last few years, maybe we had too many, just not enough speed to run down those balls out in the outfield. And I said we just tried to change it and try to get a little more athletic, and I think we have.
And I want to ask you, you have 28 players heading into spring training, and you cut that down to 23 when the season begins. What are the decisions that you're making, and how are you making those decisions on the last 5 that you release?
Those are tough calls too, because the spring training is only 12 days, and you have a few exhibition games, and you just try to do what's best, what you think is best for the team, and have to let some guys go after a short time, but sometimes some guys come in ready to go, and some guys really don't, and it's like I said, it's a tough thing, and we just try to make the decisions that we feel best for the team.
Now, so far in the season, you guys swept Fargo, and Winnipeg and Sioux Falls have kind of gotten off to a little bit of a rocky start as well. What is your impression of your division overall?
The division's always tough. and it's tough again. And like I said, we're only 9 days in, and it's Fargo got off to a slow start, but that doesn't matter. They're going to be in there right at the end. They're going to. I know they've won a couple in a row now, and from what I hear, Sioux Falls has got a solid team, and they have. They've been in some games, and they've been off to a good start as well. And we know Winnipeg's going to be there at the end. They always are. You look at the guys on their roster; they have quality players, and this division is pretty tough. And if you want a chance to win it, you better play your best.
Now, with 22 games over the next 23 days, you're actually into that stretch a little bit. How do you wind up keeping your pitching staff fresh with that kind of duration of games?
You hope your starting pitcher can go 6 innings, because you can't keep going into the bullpen in the first few innings of the game. Sometimes that's the thing with the smaller rosters in our league, the 22-man roster. And people don't understand there's times when you have a starting pitcher getting whacked out there, but you have to leave him out there. It's not that we want to leave him out there, but sometimes with the roster so small, sometimes you got to hang him out there at times, and you hope it doesn't happen too often. But the starting pitchers, you got to have quality starting pitching in this league, because again, you can't be dipping into that bullpen in the third, fourth inning too many times, or you're not going to have a bullpen left at the end of the year.
Does the reverse also work as well, where you're looking at it and you're saying to yourself, you don't want to stretch out a starter even too long because you're concerned about I've got to get 7, 8, or 8 innings out of this guy 5 days from now, and then 5 more days after that?
Yeah, it's well, we've told all the starting pitchers, months before they came, they need to be ready to go because the spring training is so short, and so guys that have come here, they've been ready to go, and you want them to go 6, 7 innings if they can here in the first month, and hopefully it'll just be smooth sailing after that. But you know what? We really don't throw pitchers. We really don't. We're not we haven't been known to throw pitchers 120 pitches a game. That's something that I haven't done, and you really try to stay away from that. But if they were throwing enough before they got here, they should be ready to go. And pitching this first week, 6, 7 innings, should not be a problem.
Do you include pitch counts as part of your decision about when a starter would come out?
Yeah. If he's over 100 pitches, then you try to, you got to be careful with it. But it just depends how the game's going too. If they're not, if he's at 100 pitches and he's dealing, then we're going to leave him out there. It just depends. They're getting good swings off him. If they're hitting the ball hard off him, it's just a game by game, situation just to see how he's doing.
Excellent, George. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me, and I look forward to talking with you again next Sunday.
No problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
We want to thank Manager George Tsamis for joining us on Strike Zone this week. If you'd like to ask the skipper questions in the future, please email us again at askgeorge@minorleaguesportsreport.com. That's askgeorge@minorleaguesportsreport.com. Please have your questions in by Friday at noon. If by some chance you don't happen to have your question in on time, no worries whatsoever. You can always send questions to us anytime during the season. George will be joining us every week up through the American Association Championship, which I'm sure the St. Paul Saints will be participants in. So please feel free to join us and to email us anytime during the year. We thank you once again for joining us on Strike Zone, and we look forward to seeing you